Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 19th, 2021 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation is encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should raise their hand or unmute themselves and turn on their camera to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. That's PLANNER@PLANCOM.org. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. With that introduction, I would like to ask the clerk to go ahead and call roll.
Good evening. Joseph?
Here.
Bernstein?
Here.
Cardenas?
Here.
Dickerson?
Here.
Dix?
Here.
Dowdy?
Here.
Handy?
Here.
Linkus?
Here.
Marino?
Here.
Marino?
Here.
Was that a yes? I didn't hear.
That's a yes. I see him.
Thank you. Powell?
Here.
Rodriguez? Rodriguez? Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we move into our action items for the night, we have the issue of Commissioner Kress. We need a motion to go ahead and allow her to vote remotely, as we discussed in our last meeting. So I will open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Bernstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we allow Commissioner Kress to participate in these proceedings remotely due to the demonstration of extraordinary circumstances.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Bernstein, a second to that motion by Commissioner Powell. Any more discussion from the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Joseph?
Yes.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Handy?
Yes.
Linkus? Powell?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you. All right. Our first action item up is the approval of a letter on planning commissioner terms. Is that you, Ms. Ornita, presenting that?
Yes, sir. The letter that I emailed out Friday, was attached to with my was attached with a series of reminders on Friday. And we were able, in consultation with Mr. Robin, to outline a path for the city of Tampa to, at their next opportunity, appoint one commissioner for a 3-year term, one for a 4-year term, and then if they do that again, when the next 2 are up, 2 years subsequent to that, if they do the same thing, it will end up with staggered terms from there on out. So that was fairly clear in how it was a path forward. They have appointments coming up at the end of September. They're due to make those appointments. So since time is of the essence, I wanted to get that in front of you today. We are working on a similar letter to the county. There is 2 appointments that will occur in 2023 that have the same timing. But in order to rectify it, I think Mr. Robin and I would like to consult with the county attorney's office to make sure that our solution is okay with them before we send that letter. So I would bring that letter to you for your August meeting. But at this point, if you all are comfortable with the letter that I sent out, we can proceed. If you'd like any changes, please let me know.
Okay. All right, I will open it up to the commissioners for any questions or comments. Commissioner Dix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was great. I just wanted to verbalize in layman's language, so I'll make certain I understand. So the end result will be that the city of Tampa will be appointing or reappointing someone every single year.
Yes, it will take this next appointment.
Sure.
They will do one for 3 years
Sure.
and one for 4, and then they'll do that again when it's Commissioner Bernstein and Commissioner Cardenas 2 years later. And then the result will be, yes, that you will end up with one every year.
Because they have 4, but in the case of Temple Terrace or in Plant City, like my term is over, in a couple of months, so that will be a 4-year commitment for whomever.
Yeah.
Continuously.
Whichever year
Correct.
the small cities are on different years.
The other cities.
Oh, sorry.
Not the small.
other cities.
That's
Sorry. Apologize for that.
Plant City is the second largest city in Hillsborough County. I'm just saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
So the other cities are on different years already. So they are not, there will be 1 year of the 4, 2 years of the 4 where we have 3 that would turn over, but they're not on the same time. Temple Terrace and Plant City are different years.
Perfect. And Mr. Chairman, if you need a motion, since it's under your signature, I would move that you, representing us, send that letter and forward that on to the city of Tampa.
All right.
Second.
All right. Do we have any more discussion from the commissioners on that? Just checking around, make sure Commissioner Kress doesn't have her hand raised. Don't believe so. Nope. All right. A motion to approve the current letter by Commissioner Dix and a second to that motion by Commissioner Dowdy. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners on this item? Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, Melissa, I'd like to ask how do we get it in our rotation that if the municipality should choose not to follow our guidance, that we continue to ask every year until they do?
I mean, certainly you can give me that direction and I will follow it. I'm happy to, but every time if you want to send a letter under the chairman's.
vote. We have to
Yeah,
vote
I think
for
it would be best to take action each time.
Well, I guess I'd like to make sure that this body realizes that, at least in my opinion, that I think it's an important thing that we shift this and we have both the city and the county appointing one every year instead of getting to this point where a large majority of the board turns over all at once. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Dowdy. Comments. Was there anyone else who had any comments before we go to vote? All right, so we have a motion for approval by Commissioner Dix, a second to that motion by Commissioner Dowdy. Seeing no other discussion from the commissioners, I will ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Joseph?
Yes.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Handy?
Yes.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Motion carried 10-0.
Thank you. All right. Next item up is a joint item, HCCPA 20-11, future land use element, residential plan 2, future land use category. And I believe as I was told, the presentation for that will also coincide with item C, 2C, Hillsborough County Land Development Code Amendment 210288 RP2. And the presenter will be Mr. Jay Collins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. I'm here this evening to introduce Mr. Jared Schneider from Kimley-Horn, who will be providing the presentation tonight. Staff will then be back a little bit towards the end of this presentation to provide for you a consistency finding on this item, and then we'll all be here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much. Mr. Schneider, please take it away if it pleases the chair.
Thank you, Jay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. All right, I'm going to move right along. As mentioned, this is number 2 and number 3 on the action items. As Jay mentioned, he'll be following up towards the end of the presentation. So really to jump in, RP2 areas are really those areas, the pink and the yellow shading. The pink area is what was under the residential moratorium. Yellow is really kind of what we've talked about as the North Village Plan area. And then there's also a dashed purple area that identifies the BOM community planning area. Also, all these areas are outside of the urban service boundary that's identified in that blue hashing. So to give you a little bit of background on the timeline engagement, really from February 2020 to 2021, 90 plus meetings were held with mail outs to the community. With the pandemic, only a few of the meetings were able to be in person, so we switched to virtual meetings. Really from the hearing in February 2021, earlier this year, the focus was on clarity. We heard that on both the comp plan and the land development code. So since that time, what have we been doing since February 2021? We've really been able to have additional focused topic meetings within the community. That was something that we heard loud and clear. And we also had an open house recently. And I'll get into more on this. Our focus was on the timing, the compatibility, and the design of developments in the area. The summary of the February proposal coming to this board was really focused on kind of 5 key items. Since that time, we really saw, again, the need for more simplicity, clarity, and additional compatibility and timing policies that have been developed by staff. And then also we tested the previous land development code in the form of beta test. And I'll talk a little bit more about that next. So this was really a good time to kind of, again, what we call beta testing, where we were able to take the existing code, what's approved today, and then also the proposed code, and understand what those differences are, and to really understand how can we improve the code. So that's something that was conducted over the last several months. So I mentioned the additional outreach since February. We've spent a lot of time in the community starting April 1 with an open house, and then several topic meetings in April, May, and June that focused on updated policies, the neighborhood design and look and feel of developments within the area, and then additional policy changes. And this is really something we worked with the community to talk about. You know, there's a number of different viewpoints. So we're really talking about what does balance look like? How do we balance the different objectives and then relate that back to the BOM community plan? So that's what we've really been working on over the last several months. Also, these meetings gave us a chance to not only have them in person, but they were in a hybrid format where we're able to do those online as well to allow different types of engagement. So there are a number of items that, again, as we tried to balance the different viewpoints, there's a number of concerns that have continued to come up, the compatibility with the rural character and future denser development. The need for better infrastructure has come up quite a bit. We were able to really talk through with the group, and there's some points of agreement here. Maintaining that rural character, preferring larger lots, buffering and screening. That was something that really came up quite a bit. So we've addressed that in our policies as well as the land development code. There's also kind of the policy focus here on the right-hand side of this table. Again, we focused on 4 key items: the development pattern, the open space, and what does the perimeter of developments look like. And then community benefits was something that we continued to work with. And then the compatibility review was something that we'll get into later on. So now to dive into more detail, What we did is really refine policy 33.1, which lays out the intent, the overall intent. So to highlight, we prioritize the timeliness, compatible transition, and the preserving the rural character. Those are some of the major components of policy 33.1. Variety of housing types was another one that was discussed quite a bit. So I showed that map earlier. Really what has been identified in the policies that we kept building on top of from February were these two different sub areas, the North Village Plan area and the Baum Village Plan area. So the one dwelling units per 5 acre remains the same. The acreage thresholds vary slightly. So in the north area, we have 50 acres or greater. And then in the Baum Village area, you have 160 acres or greater. And there's specific design criteria that must be met, as well as community benefits to get up to that 2 dwelling units per gross acre. And I'll get into the community benefits in more detail. Also, parcels less than 50 acres in the north or parcels less than 160 acres in the Baum Village area must aggregate to reach those thresholds. In addition, there's the ability to do transfer of development rights. The Baum Village Plan area, we heard that was loud and clear, was designated as a sending area. And then the North Village area can get up to 14 dwelling units per gross acre with the TDRs. So to get into policy 33.3 and 33.4, this really identifies additional detail for the 2 different sub areas. One thing I'll note that we heard quite a bit in these focus meetings was clustering was something that really folks weren't really supportive of. So the clustering requirement has been removed, and more details to come out on that in the LDC. And this is partially why what we've done is really started to focus on an open space requirement internal to the site. We really focus on the perimeter and the buffering, the screening, the transition was something that we heard to maintain that rural character. We also created a neighborhood center requirement, neighborhood serving uses on site, having requirements on that, and then must be in specific locations to support the larger planned village. The rest of the policies in 33.5 and 33.6, again, really identify zoning conformance and then design rules that are consistent in the land development code. So to get into the community benefits, developers must provide the benefits to achieve up to 2 dwelling units per acre. And we worked with the community to refine and prioritize the community benefits that were identified in February. And what we did was really provide a level of tiers. So the tier 1 are some of those that were most important, identified from the community. And then also, in addition, you have to provide benefits that exceed the minimum of development required in the code. Provide a little bit more on community benefits, and we'll get into this in more detail in the land development code. Tier 1, again, developers have to provide at least 1 if they're under 100 acres, and then at least 2 if they're over 100 acres. And there's several categories, main categories of the community benefits. There's a range of 14 of them, but they're really in 6 major classifications. And those really address infrastructure improvements as well as furthering goals from the Baum Community Plan. So now I'm going to go through the Land Development Code, Amendment 21-0288. So this provides, again, a little bit more detail on the community benefits. Currently today in the adopted code, there's no community benefits. In the proposed code, to achieve that 2 dwelling units per acre, developers must provide benefits to the community. And there's different threshold ranges based on the size of the development. And a key difference from February here is that you must hold public meetings with registered neighborhood groups prior to the application, and then also complying with timing and consistency requirements. Most of the benefits either have a certificate of occupancy trigger or a written agreement or acceptance with a corresponding county agency. Another change from the existing code today are the requirement for the neighborhood center. And what we have here is a little bit more of a flexibility for allowed uses with possible food truck courts, professional office, co-working office space, or health practitioner office space. So again, trying to provide more flexibility. Today, commercial and office is required in the area. This adds a little bit more onto that component. Again, today, commercial is required on site. The proposed code, commercial is not required on site, but really targeted towards specific elements, and that can be provided as a community benefit, as an off-site community benefit. So providing added flexibility. Another component that we talked about quite a bit in the focus meetings was really identifying lot types. So in the code today, there's at least 3 different lot types. This is the proposed code. And in BOM, there's no less than 20% should be provided of one housing type. And in the North Village, no less than 10%. If the developers to provide half-acre to 1-acre lots, only 1 or 2 housing types required. So that allows that flexibility. If someone wants to do larger lots, they can do so. So this is a big item that was discussed quite a bit. Today, there's perimeter buffers at 250 feet, around 70% of the site. The change here is a sliding scale of 50 to 250 foot buffers, but must be required around the entire site. Or if half-acre lots or greater are provided, that can also serve as the buffer. So again, we were talking about the transition here. And then there's an internal open space requirement of 2.5%. This is really more landscaping to improve the look up from the street is what was specified in the code today. Something that we heard quite a bit was the dark sky lighting initiative. So that was something that was added to this round of the code. So new residential and non-residential developments must follow dark sky lighting standards as part of the design criteria. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jay for the consistency review.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate that. Yes, up next, Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff, again, is the consistency review for Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment HC-CPA 2011 and Land Development Code Amendment 21-0288. Next slide, please. First, for consistency is CPA 2011, the RP2 amendment. These are consistent with, but not limited to, the Future Land Use Elements Policy 4.1, discussing rural area densities, Policy 4.3, RP2, as a land use category within the rural service area, Policy 4.6, rural levels of service, Objective 14, open space within the rural service area, and Objective 16, neighborhood protection. Next slide, please. To continue the CPA 2011 consistency, community design, community design components within the future land use element, goal number 7, preserve existing rural uses, as well as goal 20, livable communities considerations. Within the livable communities element of BOM's community plan, goal 1, preserve rural characteristics, goal 4, open space, and goal 6, mix of uses. Next slide, please. The Land Development Code 21-0288 consistency review with the Residential Plan 2 land use includes the future land use elements Objective 9, consistency with the comprehensive plan. All land development code amendments shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Goal 14, development in rural areas, as well as Goal 20, livable communities considerations. Next slide, please. Further, the livable communities element of the BOM community plan strives for Goal 1, the preserve of rural characteristics, as well as a mix of uses as stated through Goal 6. Next slide, please. This is just some of the schedule moving forward where we are tonight. There is a transmittal hearing scheduled with the Board of County Commissioners on August 5th, a tentative adoption schedule for October the 7th, and the moratorium on rezonings within the RP2 land use within the rural service area would expire on December 31st of this year. Next slide, please. And with that, a little bit more of the structure that we've been having here tonight. These are 2 items Comprehensive Plan Amendment HCCPA 2011, the Future Land Use Elements Residential Plan 2, and the Residential Plan 2's Land Development Code Amendment LDC 21-0288 Plan Village. With that, staff finds the consistent of the goals, objectives, and policies of the future land use, of the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. This concludes my and Mr. Schneider's presentation, and we are available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. All right, there we go. Camera's back. All right, so we will go to public comment on these items. Again, it's HCCPA 20-11 and HC 21-0288. We have a couple people here signed up for each of them. We'll start with HCCPA 2011, and I have the first person is Buddy Harwell. And I'd like to remind everyone to please identify yourself at the start of your comments. And remember, we're keeping it to 3 minutes per person here. So, Mr. Buddy Harwell.
Yes, Buddy Harwell, Baum, Florida, Baum Civic Association. First of all, I want to thank you for letting us participate in these meetings. I do want to talk about the property rights. There's been a lot of discussion about property rights with the farmers and developers and stuff, but it seems like that the individual property rights has kind of been ignored. You got to remember, we moved out here for the rural character of the community. We knew that cell phones didn't work, that there was internet was lacking out here. So I just want to make sure that you take into account our rights also when you're developing this plan. Also, with the buffer and screening and lot sizes were the two major obstacles that we had. I mean, it's 1 to 5 acres now. And with RP2, you went down to 4,000 square foot lots with clustering. Seems like we're going to do away with clustering, which is a good thing. I just want to make sure we have some half acre and acre lots. What we discussed, it looks like they're talking about the bigger lots on the perimeter of the development. I just want to make sure that we don't lose some of the larger lots due to maybe wetlands on the perimeter. I think there needs to be a percentage put in there that's required, so many half-acre lots, 1-acre lots. We also, with the buffering and screening, it is important so when these developments come next to a farm that has livestock on it, that you're not, butting right up next to it, and then all of a sudden the neighbors don't like the smells, the noise, or whatever else they see. So that's why the buffering on the perimeter is important. Also, Ross Dickerson of ELAP, first of 2020, did a presentation showing that it's important for the prescribed burns on the ELAP property not be up against. And I just want to let you know that I've been working with the Enterprising Latinos, and I didn't sign up for theirs, but I've attended the WVR2. I support them in their request and vision for that area also. TDR should not go from rural to rural. Lot sizes should be at least half acre or larger. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty. Next on our list for HCCPA 20-11, we have Jamie Franklin.
I'm here. James Franklin.
Yes,
Beautiful
please.
downtown Baum.
Go ahead.
1985, my wife and I moved out here. All business and a home. We've been besieged with contract this and building that and building the other thing. As far as the setback is concerned, I have basically a race car rear end shop, and I have race cars. and I have no setback around my property. Thank you very much. And when the people start living there and I start cranking up a race car and they start getting mad, it's going to be too bad because I've got commercial property. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Bill O'Brien.
Good afternoon. Bill O'Brien. I represent Baum, and I represent the Baum Civic Association. I am one of the few people that have lived here all my life. I was born here. So things have changed a lot. What we've tried to do, we've worked to appreciate the efforts of Hillsborough County and the Planning Commission staff and the efforts that we undertook to get where we are today on this particular subject. I will say it's been brutal to the homeowners, the landowners, the natives in the area. Just going through the process, it was very, very difficult to make or to really gauge real progress as we proceeded through the effort. But some of the areas we started out this process, we being the community of Baum Civic Association, we drafted a concept paper. And the objective of that was, what do we want? What are we trying to get? And have we accomplished communicating exactly, what we're after? And the things that were in that concept paper, the larger lot sizes, maintaining the rural character of Baum, I think the progress that we've made thus far, it appears we've made some progress. I think there's been a great deal of compromise. And I'm not even sure that compromise is the right term, but we're better off than we were when we started, is what I'll say. But we wanted larger lots. I understand, based on reading the material, that the proposal would mandate some form of larger lots on the perimeters of any developments that are allowed to get constructed in the area. Larger lots being at least a half acre, and then the lots within the subdivision, based on what I read through the material, the lots would be allowed to be smaller within the perimeter. I guess from my perspective, I'm not really fond of the smaller lots within the center or in the center of a development. I think our objective was larger lots on all of the subdivisions. So I guess that's a point of contention, but again, I think we've made some progress. The buffering and screening, we communicated that we wanted to, if developments are put into the area, that we wanted adequate buffering and screening, and I think we've been able to maintain at least most of the buffering and screening requirements. However, I understand now that if we're planning to put larger lots on the perimeter of the project, that some of that can be taken into account for the buffering and screening. So quite frankly, I'm not fond of that concept. But again, overall, I think we've made progress.
I think your 3 minutes is up, sir. If you could go ahead and close your comments, finish up your comments for us.
All right. Do away with the clustering, and I think we've been able to accomplish that. So I'll stop and let someone else speak.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next up, and Mr. O'Brien, if you want to hang on, because you're coming back up in the next item we have up, so you can finish your thoughts in that item. I'll definitely be calling on you again. But next up for this item, HCCPA 20-11, is Michael Peterson, if you're on the line.
Good evening, Mike Peterson here.
Yes,
I find it interesting to hear the consultant talk about how they've simplified this plan. I wonder if some of you folks actually tried to follow it and figure out how to do a design with all the varied rules and whatever, but I do appreciate the consultant's quandary in trying to herd cats in this effort. There are a lot of different interests, and they spend a lot of time having to deal with issues such as we want large lots, we want no clustering, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is, not only is that antithetical to many planning principles, but it ignores the big picture context of how Hillsborough County still needs to be accommodating coming populations. And here we are in areas that already anticipated conversion to urban serviced provided areas, pulling short a bit. We're pulling back the reins on what we could have achieved, but it's a compromise. And if everyone sticks with what's been proposed, it's not as bad as it could have been, particularly as bad as a recent Board of County Commissioner workshop, wherein the suggestion of let's go to all large lots and do away with public water and sewer was just stunning to me. So if nothing else, my discussion's more about preemptively asking everyone to at least send a signal to the Board of County Commissioners that doing solely large lots and septic tanks at the headwaters of Bullfrog Creek and Little Manatee River areas and whatever really needs to be rejected, even if people say that's what they want. The problem is everyone likes to talk about housing affordability. We just had an article in today's paper about how we've got the fastest growing rents around. You would have seen an article in recent weeks about how we've got the highest prices for sales. Everyone likes to wring their hands and give sound bites of how they're concerned, but it's a simple economics proposition. It's supply and demand. And if we keep limiting the supply of potential housing, then the prices will continue to go up. If we keep adding extra requirements, benefits, et cetera, to be put on the backs of those providing housing, prices are going to go up. So it won't necessarily be solved in this particular plan update, but you as the Planning Commission, I hope you're thinking a lot about the big picture here, because if we keep going to areas and being inefficient about the use of this land by not doing as much housing as we need, you're just going to chew up rural lands faster by appeasing these large lot desires. But all in all, I think the consultants did what they could. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't have anybody else on my list. Let me just double check with Melissa.
Sorry, let me get the list back.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
There is a speaker with the last name Gillette also on the line.
Okay, Gillette. I don't see him on the line anymore. Check with HTV. Is there a last name Gillette on the line?
Ed was on earlier. It seemed that he has logged out of the meeting.
All right. All righty then. That is all from the public. Then I will go ahead and open it up to the commissioners to ask questions, discuss this item. Any comments from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Handy. I got your light first.
I see a lot of inconsistencies here because throughout the plan, it calls for preserving rural character and interconnecting preserves and encouraging residential uses outside of the downtown BOM. My understanding of downtown BOM is that the BOM residents weren't particularly interested in creating like a village similar to the Wimauma one. And then in the old plan, there was the jobs requirement. Anyway, my point is that I don't see how we can preserve the rural character and meet the goals and even Objective 33, purpose of RP2, discourage sprawl, protect and conserve agricultural lands, put incompatible development away from environmental areas, I don't see how you can increase density by tenfold and accomplish any of these things outside of the urban service area. I think there's a total disconnect. And I don't see on the community benefits, Tier 1, for example, lot size and housing type mixes. I mean, that's all very well and good for the subdivision, but what does that do for the rural nature of Baum? What does that do for Baum residents? So they have nice looking houses in the subdivisions that are allowed to develop at tenfold densities. What does that do for the congestion and the gridlock and everything else that has become problematic? How does that address the fact that we are promoting development outside of the urban service area when we cannot address the issues inside the urban service area right now, like water supply and traffic and congestion and sidewalks and safe pedestrian and bicyclist access? There's a buffer and screening element. I don't think it goes far enough into detail. What will that consist of? Are we talking native plants? There is the environmental and sustainability element of the comp plan specifically calls for a lot of things that this plan does not address, and certainly does not go far enough as far as the benefits that are being proposed fulfilling some of these objectives of that environmental and sustainability. I would say the same thing about the Tier 2, the lead buildings. I mean, that's terrific. Everybody's in favor of that, but why is that a benefit to the people of Baum that just spoke and said that they want to maintain their rural lifestyles? And in exchange for a lead green building, you get higher density, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I don't think that we should, those things are also covered in the comp plan as things that are being promoted and encouraged, but it doesn't say in exchange for higher densities. School land dedications is a community benefit that's listed. Well, that is the job of the school board and the county commission. That's a county job. We don't leave it to developers to decide where they would set aside space for schools or for connections or trails or anything else. And it also talked about there would be one public meeting prior to submittal of the development plans. One? And will that be held in Baum? How will it be noticed? How will it be held? I mean, what the Baum residents have, how much say in the community benefits that will be offered in exchange for the tenfold density? I think there are a lot of holes in this, and if staff wants to comment on some of the things I brought up, that would be great. But that's what I see right off the bat. Thank you.
Were there any responses from staff? Yes,
Sure.
Ms. nodding.
Certainly, I think one thing that we just have to keep in mind in terms of context is that this land use category exists and is applied to property today. So the contemplation of this land being utilized for up to 2 units per acre in these villages has been in the comprehensive plan since 1990. It was a compromise from when the Department of Community Affairs required the county to retract the urban service area. And so it has, for decades, been this kind of quasi, not truly rural, but not truly in the urban service area either, and that is to some degree what we've been trying to contend with and how to make that better. Over time, I would say that what is adopted in the comprehensive plan, because it has been amended by private applicants, the text, there are more holes in that I believe that we have closed through this process. And I think some of the things that the Residents mentioned in terms of lot sizes in particular. Today, as a couple of the speakers spoke to, developers can contemplate 40-foot wide lots. Those have been removed from consideration. They are required to do at least 3 different types of lots, and by doing that basically requires a developer to end up having at least 10,000 to half-acre lot sizes if they were to do all 3 of the smallest sizes. They have to have 20% of each type, and then the incentive to have additional lot sizes in the community benefits is intended to essentially get them to do more larger lots, because I guess we're kind of going into the assumption that if they were to choose the 3 smallest sizes, then that would get them to do a larger size. And that was something we heard, as you heard tonight from the community, that they wanted more larger lot sizes. I will ask whether Jared or Jay have any comments on like the community meeting. I would also add that I believe Ms. Dickerson is on the line, and the school district was actually supportive of the approach that we took to the school site dedication. It requires them to agree that the school site is something that they need and in the right location. So the developer can't just give them the not great part of their property that doesn't have good access or is all wetlands or something like that. But Ms. Dickerson might want to address that. So I'd see if any of them would like to speak.
This is Jay Collins with the Planning Commission. Ms. Dickerson, would you like to go? Let's see you.
Sure. I didn't want to jump over anyone. So thank you, Ms. Zornita. I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. So we have been working with Planning Commission staff, and Ms. Zornita is correct. We have to approve it along with the county as well, which is very important because the county does provide necessary infrastructure to our sites. So we have to be coordinating during that effort. Where this comes in and is necessary are the lack of available sites in this area. So anytime that we can reserve those sites earlier in the process, that's very important for us. So we're in full support of the language as drafted. Thank you.
And that language is actually similar between the 2 land uses. So this is one of the things as we have some of these conversations tonight. This is throughout both Balm and Wimauma. Commissioner Handy, one of the things that you did bring up is about the noticing for the public meeting. And that was something that came directly out of having conversations with the public. They wanted a seat at the table. And so we worked with them on when would be the best time to start that process. And that was the idea, was before the application for a rezoning is actually submitted, so that right off the bat, the community, the developer, as well as the county would have an idea of where are we in the county? What is needed in this area? What are some of the goals of the community plan? So how does it work? If you are doing 50 or more residential units in either of these areas, you would actually have to notice all of the registered neighborhood associations via Hillsborough County's Office of Neighborhood Relations in that community plan. So whether it is Wimauma or Balm. And that would be a public meeting to be held within the boundary of the community plan area. So you can think of it at Bethune, where we did a lot of this stuff for Wimauma, or at Balm Civic Center. And then from there, you would be providing, as a developer, an affidavit with your application showing the date, the time, who you invited, who showed up, and what were some of the meeting notes, what are the takeaways. And that travels with that zoning application. So right off the bat, there's a record of what has been conversed between the community, the developer, as well as some of county staff in this process. Mr. Schneider, anything to add to that?
I think you hit it pretty well, Jay. The thing I'll add on to that is also one of the community benefits that was added on was that contribution to a BOM community plan goal. So that was another option, the community benefits. In addition, the policy that really kind of strives to look at consistency and compatibility review. So that policy 33.817 was something that was added for this concern.
All right, thank you. All right, I will open it up to other commissioners. I think I saw some motion from Commissioner Linkus. Go ahead, please.
I just want to thank all of the public speakers. It was really interesting to hear your perspectives as well. And I just want to acknowledge that this is really difficult work. Our rural spaces, as a scholar of rural areas, are our most contested lands. And you can hear that from the comments that we heard today, where you've got property rights interest and interest in kind of providing affordable housing and interest in sort of that 10,000-foot planning, how do you accommodate growth, but then you have people who've lived there for generations who want to maintain their quality of life, and then you've got what's going on in Wimauma, where you've got people who want community benefits, basic infrastructure, a sense of a small town. So there's a lot here, and I think one of the things that planning has not done well for a long time is take seriously the really difficult design and zoning and detailed planning challenges of our rural areas. So I commend the Planning Commission for doing this work. I think it is really difficult work. I really felt the comment that one of the gentlemen said about this has been painful for us, the residents. This is hard work, but I do think that the deep level of engagement here and some of the compromises and some of the deeper ability to kind of involve the public here so that they understand what these processes look like and understand the challenges ahead are valuable. So yeah, it's a compromised product and difficult decisions are made, but I think there's a level of sophistication here about looking at the balance of the issues that's come into play. So I just, again, want to appreciate the comments from the public, and I think this was a hard earned effort.
Well said, Commissioner Linkus, well said. Are there any more comments from the commissioners? I don't see Commissioner Kress's hand up on the line. Or is that a motion, Commissioner Bernstein, Megan? No? All right. I am not. Oh, Commissioner Handy, yes, please.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay, and Melissa for enlightening me on the history. I'm not as familiar with the RP2 as I am the Wimauma issues. And I'm glad to hear that the school dedication and the school siting, it will be a joint effort that will be approved by the school board. However, I'm still a little concerned about these community benefits and what they will really do to benefit a community like Baum. I think school land dedication is something that is a developer responsibility and is a benefit to the developer. When new housing goes in, it's all about the school and are there enough schools in the school districts it's in. So again, I would like to see a little bit more on how all of these development intents, policy 33.1 development intent, such as, and here's a question maybe someone can answer, prioritize the timeliness. It's mentioned throughout here, the timing and consistency. How do we demonstrate the timeliness? How will that actually be addressed when it comes time to see one of these rezonings to RP2 come up?
Ms. Ornita?
I can answer that one, or I'll try. So Objective 33A, all of that section, for the most part, there are a couple of policies that are existing, but most of them are new policies that are intended to outline sort of, as you said, policy 33A talks about how this is not the first priority for the county for growth, that should be in the urban service area. And then specifically in policy 33A16, there's a series of timeliness indicators. And so there are four. One is that it's not compatible, and there is a specific definition of compatibility in policy 33A17 that is different from the standard compatibility definition that we use all throughout the urban service area that is more addressing the rural character of the area. So that's timeliness indicator 1. 2 is that it does not, the plan development does not meet or exceed all the land development code requirements. 3, the project would adversely impact environmental, natural, historic, or archaeological resources, features, or systems to a degree that's inconsistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. And then 4, that the project does not achieve internal trip capture through construction of on-site mix of uses or by being located within a 2-mile driving or walking distance from built uses. And that is important because today what RP2 has it has a requirement that you have to provide on-site commercial, or it can be off-site, but it's just a 2-mile radius and it's like just drawn like a circle. But as we all know, you can't just walk or drive anywhere within that. You have to follow roadways. So that was an important change from our perspective to tighten up the 2 miles to really be something that a distance that somebody could go. So those are what we have added. Those indicators do not exist in the plan today.
Thank you, Ms. Zornita. All right, I will go to Commissioner Powell. Looks like he has a...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay, to kind of pick up on what Commissioner Handy was bringing up on the community benefits, where did those come from? Like, were those things that we created as staff, or were those things that we heard from the community and we were implementing like the feedback from the community for those community benefits?
Sure. So yes, sir. Good question. So we've been at this for about 18 months now, and those are coming out of the community from conversations with them. They're coming from their community plan. Sometimes some of the things that were asked, we could not deliver on with some of it, and that was the best that we could do with some of the wording that we have, some of the tools that we have at our disposal. So these are coming from the community.
Okay, so the majority of this is coming from the community. There wasn't something that we just decided upon. I just wanted to say, I think staff has done a really tremendous job in, as Commissioner Linka said, trying to put everything together that we've heard from the community. So I really want to commend everyone, for your hard efforts. I definitely personally support the community benefits over, the jobs requirement. I think that is going to have a greater impact, in those communities and in that rural area. Versus what we currently have in place. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Good comments. Were there any more comments or questions or discussion from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time. I'm going to go ahead and close public discussion only for HCCPA 20-11 future land use element, and I will open the floor up for motions to that item, HCCPA 2011. Commissioner Bernstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we vote to find that HCCPA 20-11 is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and that we pass it along to the Commission for consideration.
Second.
I got a motion by Commissioner Bernstein. Second, I'm going to give the tie to Commissioner Powell. You cool with that? Commissioner Powell. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners on this item? Seeing none. Commissioner Kress, no. I will ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-1. Commissioner Handy voted no.
Thank you. All right, now we will move on to the public comment section for item HC LDCA 21-0288, the land development portion, land development code portion of this. Let me see who we have signed up for public comment here. If you bear with me for just a moment. HC 21-288, the first individual we have signed up for public comment is Buddy Harwell, if you're on the line.
Hello again. Buddy Harwell, Balm, Florida, Balm Civics Association. Here again, I'd just like to talk about the lot sizes. We did talk about the community benefits is still up in the air to a lot of us out here. We don't need walking trails, bike paths. I mean, we're in the rural as it is, so some of that is kind of, you know, we don't care about as much as the Wimauma area. We did talk about, and we want to make sure that it's included, that as far as the community benefits when it comes down to picking them, that the community is involved in them, and so we don't get the same benefits from one development to the other, and usually the easiest thing to build. I do want to comment, talk about the small lot sizes and the big lot sizes. Developers say, they're building what the market demands right now. The problem with that is if you only build small lot sizes, that's the only thing that the market can buy. And I just want to remind you about the survey that was just done in Hillsborough County that shows 45% of people want large lots in rural area, and 91% of the people should discourage and limit development to protect the agricultural and environmental lands. So, and we come back to the RP2. I mean, the last year in RP2, developers don't like it. We don't like it. They get the option to pull out the commercial aspect in it because they say it's not fitting to be in the rural area, which it should be because, like I say, you have to drive 10 to 15 miles to get to somewhere. So when you pull that out, there's just nothing left to keep the internal travel down. And as far as the cluster, something we definitely agree on, we don't like either. So it seems like they always have the option of taking out what they don't like, but there again, the public, the community is left, holding the stick and nothing to do on it. Schools and roads, I just want to point out down south, there was some school sites that was approved, yet the school came in and said we can't build them because the roads are inadequate, yet Hillsborough County can't deny the developer from building the development because of roads, because of the HB 7207. So if they can't stop the development from coming in because of the roads, yet the school can't be built because of the roads, that's kind of a tricky area there. And that's, I'll wrap it up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right. The next individual we have up for public comment on HC 21-288 is James Franklin. You're still on the line.
I'm here, James Franklin, beautiful downtown Balm.
Yes,
I've
please
got to
go
say
ahead.
one thing. We have one small development out here, Amber Suite, that has beautiful lot sizes. It's a beautiful area to drive through it. We'd like more of these developments to look like that. No clustering, half-acre lots, beautiful landscape, room for the kids to go play in their own yard, different houses. It's just beautiful. Look at that. That's what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up on the list, we have Tanya Jackson.
Hi, good evening. Just the opportunity. One of the concerns that I have is who's going to ensure that that the citizens of Wimauma are going to have a seat at the table when everything gets done. We all know that if you don't have a seat at the table, you don't know what the menu is. So who's going to bring this information back responsibly? And are there any citizens of Wimauma that are going to have like a task force or something that they'll be able to be a part of to keep everything on the up and up as far as their interests are concerned. My family, my great aunt was one of the first to have a business, a minority business in Wimauma, just a little small grocery store. There are dreams and things that we, as citizens that have been there and have legacies there, that like to see developers taking consideration as well, whether that's, contracts, from citizens that have small businesses there. When you talk about businesses, I like to see the real feel of the benefits for citizens of Wimauma. So that's one of my concerns. And I also have land in Baum as well. So my concerns are, from way back. And I'd like to see more representation for the citizens that live there when you talk about these benefits.
Thank you. All right. Next up on the list, we have Holly Jameson.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Holly Jameson. I'm a 6-year resident of Valencia Lakes in Wimauma and a board member of the Wimauma Community Development Corporation. How many of you have driven through the 35 square miles of the Wimauma plan? In 2020, in an effort to get out the vote, I walked almost every street in Wimauma. I experienced firsthand the incredible diversity of our community: farms, trailers, businesses, developments. That experience prompted me to join the Wimauma Village Plan update process for the past 2 years. Our community and stakeholder meetings have been wonderful because we've gotten to know each other, our needs, concerns, and hope for our Wimauma. And at every community and Wimauma Now meeting, we heard the same messages. Number 1, keep WVR2 rural. Number 2, make sure any growth is intentional and thoughtful, because we have seen what happens without control. Number 3, create a plan that has real benefits for the entire community. Number 4, help us to understand the obligations of the Wimauma Village Plan and the obligation of county government. Whose responsibility are safe sidewalks in the urban service area? Number 5, what will the implementation strategic action plan look like? 14 years after the Wimauma Village Plan was approved in 2007, there has been very little action, and frankly, our residents have become distrustful of plans. We deserve better than that. We heard that our residents love living here. 3rd, 4th, 5th generation. Young residents who've moved away are coming back. Businesses are not moving. But we can't and should not be doing this alone. We all know the Wimauma Village Plan is not perfect, but it is good in many ways. Our community has put so much time and thought into the update that it truly reflects our concerns and the needs and the hopes of our residents. So now it's in your hands. You have both the opportunity and responsibility to thoughtfully approve our plan. And this opportunity probably will never come again. Be assured this community knows that our task is not finished with your approval and the approval of the BOCC. We will work very hard for implementation. We have created the basis for that action through our task force to just do that. We all have a great opportunity to be visionaries. How exciting, how lucky we are able to create a plan that will truly uplift for many years to come. Wimauma's future begins
Ms. Jameson,
now.
we're going to keep it to 3 minutes. I would like to ask you to go ahead and wrap up your comments for us.
I have one more sentence.
Thank you.
Let it be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up for HC 210288, Land Development Code, is Bill O'Brien. Bill, if Bill.
Good afternoon again. Bill
Yes.
O'Brien, Balm Community. Listen, I've listened to a lot of comment, and I believe I'm very respectful of the thoughts and comments and the time and effort that's been put into this by the citizens of the communities involved, as well as the Planning Commission staff. However, I think what I just need to say is that I believe overall the plan that we have in front of us falls short of expectations. It does not address the issues that we believed were critical and needed to be addressed in their full content. It doesn't address the transportation and infrastructure needs. It does not address the maintaining of the rural character of the communities that are involved, because increased density and increased development without the infrastructure is ludicrous. And what it does is creates what you've already created in the rest of the county with Big Bend area and all of the areas surrounding here. So my comment is, I think we've done a good job. I think we've got a good template to move forward, but I believe we aren't done yet. That's my comment.
Thank you, sir. All right. I don't have anyone else on my list signed up for the public comment. Nope, no one else signed up with Ms. Ornita either. So with that, I will go on ahead and open it up to the commissioners for discussion, comments, and questions on this item, the Land Development Code. Let me check on the WebEx. No, not seeing any hands online, not seeing any hands in the room. I will go on ahead and close public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Bernstein, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we find HC LDCA 21-0288 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. And then we pass it on to the County Commission for consideration.
Second.
All right, I have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Bernstein, a second to that motion by Commissioner Dowdy. Is there any more discussion amongst the commissioners for this item? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Handy?
No.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-1. Commissioner Handy voted no.
Thank you. All right, and thank you, staff, for the presentation and all the information. Thank you to the citizens who gave their comments. Some of you are still on the list, so please just bear with us for a little while there. We'll get back to you on these other items we have coming up, and we will move on to our next items of business. That would be HCCPA 20-11, Livable Communities Element Update, HCCPA 20-13, it's a future land use element update, and HCLDC, Land Development Code 210289, WVR2. And the presenters for this will be Jay Collins and Taryn Sabia.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here to introduce Ms. Taryn Sabia. She's the director for the Florida Center for Community Design and Research. University of South Florida is the consultant on this project. Ms. Sabia will go over her presentation, and then I will come back on for the consistency finding and stick around for any questions that may need to be answered. So now, if it pleases the chair, Ms. Sabia, please take it away.
Excellent.
Good evening, everyone. I am Taryn Sabia, the director for the Florida Center for Community Design and Research at the University of South Florida, and we are the consultant working with the Planning Commission for the Wimauma Community Plan update. I will give the plan update, and then Jay Collins will follow with the consistency presentation. We have been engaged in the process now for about 18 months, and our charge was to update 4 areas of the Wimauma Community Plan overall. So the livable communities element and the future land use element, the downtown overlay, which is going to be part of the land development code, the WVR2, the Wimauma Village Residential 2, also part of the land development code, and the downtown strategic action plan. This is something that we created to help everyone understand a bit where all of these different documents fit in place. So we do have land use underneath the comp plan, followed by our goals, which are represented through the livable communities element, the community plan, the future land use element, and then the 2 land development codes, as I mentioned, the Wimauma Downtown Overlay and the Wimauma Village Residential 2. In addition to that, we have some accompanying documents, which include the Wimauma Urban Design Plan and the Downtown Strategic Action Plan. And for the record, I'd like to note that the Wimauma Community Plan was sent under a separate cover of the HCCPA 20-12. Throughout the planning process, we have had 4 areas that we used as guiding principles, and these guiding principles have carried through from the very initial conversations that we began having with the community back in early 2020 through now, and they are health, equity, resilience, and sustainability. Additionally, through this conversations that we started early on and through the process of working with the community, we determined that there are 3 areas of critical needs: health, housing, and opportunity. And some changes in terms of looking at key policy that might be a bit different or has been updated since February of 2021. So including the updated community plan goals, and we provided new and additional strategies. There's no additional land designated for the WVR2. We're retaining existing density and intensity within the category. We have expanded the transfer of development rights to establish the Wimauma downtown receiving area within the urban service boundary, replacing the employment and service requirements with community benefits requirements that provide community benefits and services to support the needs of the community, improve infrastructure, and embrace economic opportunity. So the expansion of open space requirements to include specific percentages and standards for open space, conservation areas, and agricultural land, and also new residential development standards, including housing types, street network design, both provided in the Land Development Code for downtown Wimauma and the WVR2. So our outreach timeline, just to refresh everyone, we kicked off with a community charrette in March of 2020, just before the shutdown due to the pandemic. We're really glad that we were able to spend that time with the community over the course of about 3.5 days. We followed up with surveys within the community, as well as virtual work sessions throughout the pandemic, presentations to Planning Commission and BOCC. Meetings with community groups took place in August of 2020. We held virtual and in-person open houses late last year, as well as public workshops and hearings this past January and February. We have followed up with additional outreach this past spring with a series of 5 workshops. Those workshops were broken up to be able to cover the different parts of the plan that we were updating and to be able to break it into manageable pieces to work with the community and get their feedback and to be able to be back in that community space so that we could again, share those conversations. They covered the topics of the livable communities element, the downtown plan and overlay, the WVR2 community benefits and infrastructure, the WVR2, the land development code, neighborhood design and affordable housing. And then we had a community open house, which put all those pieces together. And just some images, being able to highlight some of the things that we asked the community to do in terms of both visual preferences, being able to represent drawings and policies in ways that we were hoping would help explain some of these ideas to the community in order to really get their feedback on them. The Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan text amendment. So this following will cover HCCPA 20-12. And this is the livable communities element. So what is different here than some of the policy that you've seen last is that these goals have been reordered based on the importance that the community has placed on them. And so you'll see number one at the top, infrastructure and public realm. That has been talked about a lot. It's been one of the most important elements that we've heard about from the community, followed by education, the Wimauma Downtown Plan and Development, business and economic development, affordable housing and neighborhoods, multimodal transportation and connectivity, parks, recreation and conservation, health, wellness, and safety, and the Wimauma Village Residential 2. So again, this is how the community has prioritized the goals within the livable communities element. And to give you just a brief example, each of those goals has a series of bullet points or items underneath them to help reinforce it. So that first goal, infrastructure and public realm, enhance Wimauma's public realm and improve infrastructure. The top three items that the community has identified is to expand sewer and water for commercial development in downtown Wimauma, create an infrastructure prioritization plan for Wimauma's downtown, and the expansion of internet access through infrastructure. So again, these were the top priorities. We just wanted to give you a bit of an example of what we heard from the community and how they began to reprioritize those goals through this process. Through the community plan, we developed an urban design framework. That framework was used to help us to develop the overall land development codes and the community plan for both downtown Wimauma and the WVR2 area. Though the areas are different, they are part of the same overall community, and we wanted to have a community-wide approach. So these four categories helped create that framework. So mobility, forming character, environment, open space, and cultural capital and community. And this has a lot to do, that final category, with the people and experiences in Wimauma. Additionally, we wanted to have continuity between the neighborhoods and in those land development codes. And so what you'll see is similarities between the downtown overlay and the WVR2 land development code as it pertains to our street cross sections and that overall design of the street network and how that network is connecting from existing street grid areas to new development, and building designs. So, and by building designs, really looking at those lot types and building types, where buildings are placed and situated on the lot. So those are the things that cross over between them to help with that continuity. And to give you an idea of and examples of how we use the community-wide approach in this framework to address policy. Things that we cover through policy under mobility include, again, those connected streets, the street grids and block sizes, the Wimauma Trail, and also connected bike network. For forming character, the natural and green landscapes, which are addressed in the policies, the opportunities and benefit option for agri-hoods, the street room overall. And to give an explanation of that street room, it's from building face to building face. So what is happening within that space that exists between the buildings that includes the street? The variety of housing lot types and the variety of building lot types. Environment and open space, looking at the conservation of wetlands through the policy, parks and recreational fields, constructed wetlands and low impact design, agriculture, and trails. And the cultural capital and community. So neighborhood support uses like child care centers, this could also be assisted living facilities, neighborhood schools, community parks, and recreation fields. So the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment HCCPA 20-13. And again, this is looking at the Wimauma Village Residential 2, the WVR2 area. It's the area that is shaded. And the Wimauma Village Residential 2 land use category is located in the boundary of Wimauma Village, but it is in the rural service area. So the land use category itself was established during the 1990s, and the future land use element is part of the county's comprehensive plan. And the intention was to avoid a pattern of development that could contribute to urban sprawl. It is the intent of the category to designate Wimauma Village Residential 2 areas inside the boundaries of the Wimauma Village Plan that are suited for current agricultural uses, but may be suited for the expansion of the village as described in this plan. And so the category allows for 2 dwelling units per gross acre if certain criteria are met. And so this idea of the village was something that we really wanted to make sure that we were utilizing as it is part of the comprehensive plan and working with the community's overall goals. So policy 48.1, the development intent, and I'll go through some of these quickly. We do have a couple slides of development intent for the WVR2. So prioritizing the timeliness of the appropriate land use, zoning, growth, and development within the rural service area, providing for a compatible transition of land uses between rural and urban service areas, preserve the rural character, encourage opportunities for continued agriculture, offset biological and ecological impacts of new development, maintain surface water quality, and improve where possible. Provide an interconnected system of native habitat preserves, greenways, parks, and open space. Provide multimodal mobility options and connectiveness that reduces impacts of new single occupancy vehicle trips. Encourage and support non-residential uses within downtown Wimauma along and in the proximity of State Road 674. Create efficiency in planning and in the provision of infrastructure. Balance housing and workplaces, jobs, retail, and civic uses, and provide a variety of housing types to support residents of diverse ages, incomes, family sizes, and lifestyles. The intents are important and they do reflect those comments and goals that we have heard from the community about being multi-generational and inclusive. The criteria to develop the 2 dwelling units per gross acre in the WVR2. The policy which supports the community goals are as follows: cluster housing at 4 dwelling units per acre to preserve open space, maintain 40% of the entire site as open space, 30% must be adjoining, and 10% must be inside the internally located development. And then I also want to highlight here that the plan must demonstrate connection to internal and neighboring open spaces or conservation areas to enhance and protect corridors or linkages that maintain a contiguous network of wildlife habitat, and must be meet the required community benefits. So it is the goal of Hillsborough County. Again, we talked a bit about timeliness, and this covers a range of topics to ensure development is properly timed for the rural service area. So capital improvement costs, rural services, mobility planning, the provision of connectivity to roadway networks, wildlife corridors, agriculture, school sites, and the timeliness indicators which Ms. Zornita read off earlier. We also, again, wanted to continue making sure that policy was supporting the community goals through infrastructure and looking at different types of infrastructure, from streets to bicycle networks to trails, and ensuring that those things would be connected. We also asked the community to prioritize neighborhood elements that you would find throughout Wimauma Village. And so this is based on community's prioritization. So schools was up at the top. And again, this helps demonstrate that goal in the livable communities element, where education is listed as number 2. So we're starting to see these items get reinforced through the different types of activities and exercises and conversations that we've had with the community. A mix of housing types. This was also important, and that mix of housing types is reflected in both the land development code for the WVR2 and downtown. There's a requirement for a mix of 4 different types in the WVR2 with a community option for additional housing types. Farming co-op was also toward the top. Neighborhood parks, support uses, conservation, community gardens. The community is very interested in having that agricultural heritage be continued within Wimauma. Recreation fields, places for kids to play, agri-hoods, and low impact development. So what are we doing for jobs? You've heard me already mention that we are replacing the jobs requirement. The jobs requirement does not provide jobs. It provides a yes or no to development. And that's something that we really thought a lot about. And so we thought a lot about what tools do we have that would really help promote or encourage job growth in Wimauma. And so an alternative to the current jobs requirement is the community benefits options. These are community-wide. They have the ability to bring infrastructure, commercial development, employment, community amenities, housing options, and more. And some of the things that, again, are included in those benefits include the new school locations, community support uses in the neighborhoods, again, those childcare centers or assisted living facilities, increased density in the downtown, which is in the urban service area, commercial development in downtown, and encouraging agri-hoods. So the community benefits and services support the needs of the community. Again, we wanted these to also reflect those community goals and priorities. And the options are available through the plan development process. And a development of 50 or more units shall meet with the school district, the county, and hold a community meeting. So again, just to reemphasize that shift from the employment requirement to the community benefits, and that these community benefits are focusing on the land dedications, infrastructure, diversity of housing types, mobility improvements, and the preservation of open space. Here's our table to show the size of the development and the required number of community benefits, ranging from the smallest at 25 acres and less at 1 benefit up to greater than 320 acres at 6 benefits. And we're going to show 2 examples of the newest benefits. So this is in addition to the benefits that we've had since February. This one that we're showing here is that developer would construct new commercial development in downtown in the Main Street core or downtown east. And again, this is something that would help with that commercial development growth in the downtown and to help promote business development there. And our next example is the benefits that will make a contribution towards furthering a defined goal within the Wimauma Community Plan Livable Communities element. So the benefit may include economic development, transit, internet access, or other contributions like affordable housing. So we wanted to be able to provide something as a benefit that would really address those livable communities elements. We have a schematic development plan to give an idea of what the land development code that is being proposed could potentially look like if developed in the WVR2 area. So this shows how the blocks would be arranged based on the size requirements, a mix of housing types, community benefit options, the open space, as well as wetland areas that are both existing and newly constructed. The plan does show an agri-hood in this component. We're showing the street types as well as the building lot types that would be utilized in this plan. And the Hillsborough County Land Development Code Amendment 21-02889, sorry, 0289. The Wimauma Downtown Overlay. So the original Wimauma Community Plan established the goal for an overlay district in Wimauma. And so one of the items, again, that we're doing is looking at that overlay from the original community plan that was part of the goal and bringing it to fruition through the Land Development Code. The shaded area here is the proposed outline for the Wimauma's downtown. The more darkly shaded area is what we have identified as the transfer of development rights receiving area or the receiving zone. That T, the sideways T is the Main Street core, which is where you'll see most of the businesses and small commercial retail development in the area. And so the idea of that receiving zone is to help support that area with density. And so the community identified the following elements as being important. And so again, we were asking the community to help prioritize those things that were within the land development code so that we could better understand what was most important to them. So providing for beautification, including Florida-friendly landscaping along the main thoroughfares, and green infrastructure design was one of the top items within the overlay. Constructing sidewalks in existing neighborhoods with priority given to neighborhoods closest to schools. And implementing the bicycle network and the Wimauma Greenway Trail as a main transportation mode. So the community is very strongly supportive of bicycle networks as a main mode of transportation to get people around Wimauma Village. So applicability of the overlay, commercial buildings, structures that are expanded to between 20 and 50% of the legally permitted square footage within the parcel, the landscaping and signage requirements of the overlay apply. So I won't read through all of these, but we wanted to be able to show that there is a percentage of change that would have the overlay apply as buildings change over time. New structures that would be constructed on vacant parcels, the entire overlay would apply. applicability of the overlay for existing residential or single-family home or mobile home. So the applicability for existing single-family properties so that owners can replace their home due to a catastrophic event, or if they choose to rebuild their home, the overlay is voluntary. If the property is rezoned or density is increased, then the overlay would apply. And again, we have a schematic development plan for downtown Wimauma to show what the land development code could potentially look like in the Main Street core area, where you might have a smaller scale mixed use building, apartment uses, or other multifamily. Affordable housing was a big topic in Wimauma. Affordable housing can be built in the urban service area and in the rural service area. There is a density bonus for the urban service area in Wimauma's downtown, and an additional incentive in the transfer of development rights receiving zone, where affordable housing bonuses and the TDR can be stacked. So in that dark shaded area, we're proposing to allow for the stacking. So again, just reiterating, policy that supports those community goals and the diversity of housing types. We have a number of different types of residential housing, including apartment houses and courtyard apartments, row houses, and then different sizes of housing types, from cottage to side yard to standard, allowing for the civic building lots, as well as live work. And so the proposed is for 4 different houses that would be clustered closest to the urban service boundary, trails, and other civic uses. And accessory dwelling units will be allowed and do not count towards the gross density. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Jay Collins, who will go through the consistency review. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sabia. Again, Jay Collins with the Planning Commission staff. This is the consistency review for Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment HCCPA 2012, HCCPA 2013, and Land Development Code Amendment 21-0289. Next slide, please. First up, for CPA 2012, consistency with the Wimauma Community Plan update. This includes the future land use element of Policy 4.1, Rural Area Densities, Policy 4.3, Wimauma Village Residential Rural Service Area Density, Policy 4.6, Rural Levels of Service, Objective 14, Open Space, and Objective 16, Neighborhood Protection. Next slide, please. CPA 2013, consistency with the Wimauma Village Residential 2, WVR2 future land use category, includes the community design component of the future land use element, including Goal 7 to preserve existing rural uses, Goal 20, the livable communities consideration, within that Policy 20.7.1 to amend LDC for implementation. Again, WVR2 does not have current code language. And the livable communities element for Wimauma Community Plan, Goal 1, which is the implementation of the WVR2 future land use category. Next slide, please. The Land Development Code Amendment 21-0289, consistency with the Wimauma Village Residential 2, includes the future land use elements Objective 9, consistency with comprehensive plan. All land development code amendments shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Goal 14, which is development within rural areas. Goal 20, the livable communities components. And again, Goal 20.7.1 is to amend the LDC to implement this element. Next slide, please. For the downtown overlay, which is Land Development Code 21-0289, this includes, amongst others, a livable communities element within the Wimauma Community Plan, Goal 3, the Wimauma Downtown Development. Again, the Wimauma Community Plan asks for development with its downtown through an overlay or other zoning regulation. Next slide, please. So the schedule going forward, we are here tonight on July 19th. We would like to make mention to the fact that on August the 12th will be transmittal of Wimauma. Again, this is different from RP2. RP2 is August the 5th, and Wimauma will be on August the 12th. They are still both thought of for adoption on October the 7th, and the Wimauma Village Residential 2 moratorium is scheduled to end December 31st, 2021. Next slide, please. With that, the structure of these public hearings for HCCPA 2012, which is the Wimauma Community Plan update within the Livable Communities element, HCCPA 2013, which is the future land use element for the Wimauma Village Residential 2, and the Land Development Code Amendment 21-0289, which includes the Wimauma Downtown Overlay, as well as the Wimauma Village Residential 2. And with that, staff finds these consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. This concludes our presentation, and Ms. Sabia and I are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation. All right, we will go right on over to the public comments now. And we have quite a few people signed up for public comments. So just a reminder to everybody here to state your name and identify yourself, and to please adhere to the 3 minutes per person. We have some people who are signed up a couple times for the items that will follow this. If you want to speak again, please feel free to do so. But if you don't have anything to say on the later items, please also feel free to let us know. But again, please adhere to your 3 minutes per person. I'm going to be making sure that everybody has 3 minutes, because I see a lot of you signed up 2 and 3 times here. So the first person we have for public comment on item HCCPA 20-12, which is the Livable Communities element, the Wimauma Community Plan update, is Pamela Gomez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Planning Commission, for this opportunity to provide comments. I'm Pamela Gomez, and I serve as the Executive Director for the Wimauma CDC. We at the Wimauma CDC envision a diverse and unified Wimauma community that creates opportunities for everyone. We could lead the Wimauma Now campaign with our ally organization, Enterprising Latinas, that has worked to convene and increase resident participation in the community planning efforts. We have invested time, energy, and resources to ensure that especially those that have been historically excluded from these planning processes can engage and share their vision on matters that will impact their present and future. We've been actively listening to residents' feedback on this proposed plan updates. We've heard concerns of gentrification and displacement, need for infrastructure, safe and affordable housing, and economic opportunities. Thus, we stand for a smart and equitable development that balances the needs of the people of Wimauma and environmental protection. We understand that the plan is trying to balance several things, not an easy task, but it is silent on the strategies and mechanisms that will ensure its implementation, and that this plan does not sit on a shelf like the previous has. Ultimately, the plan needs to be proactive in identifying potential funding opportunities that will make way for improvements and investment in Wimauma, and economic development strategies that will make way for employment so that residents can stay in Wimauma and their tax contributions contribute to Wimauma. Wimauma is a unique place with truly beautiful and historical and cultural wealth that has a lot to offer and receive. We recommend the formation of a community action plan task force to work in conjunction with Hillsborough County and the development community to investigate and identify both public and private funding opportunities and economic development strategies that are aligned with the missions of our organizations with the Wimauma community. Thank you so much for your considerations.
Thank you for your comments. All right, next up we have Gil Martinez.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Gil Martinez, and I am the Community Development Planner for Enterprising Latinas. You may ask yourselves, why does Enterprising Latinas consider having a land use planner on their team? The answer is one that did not take too long to figure out for me. After I met with Liz, Santos, and the Ellie team, I recognized that Enterprising Latinas has a vision that is inclusive for the overall well-being of Wimauma. As an organization, Ellie's mission to promote the economic prosperity of women, children, and the community of Wimauma. As such, economic prosperity is integrally tied to the living space. Its attributes could either serve as accelerators for economic prosperity, or as is the case in Wimauma, lacking current level of services, infrastructure, and public amenities, serve as systemic decelerators to their overall holistic well-being of the women, children, and the community as a whole. Poor infrastructure, lack of transit, shortage of accessible affordable housing, daycare, educational facilities, parks, open space, safe sidewalks, lighting, all dovetailed with the predominance of existence of signs and blighted conditions. All these and many more conditions continue to disenfranchise residents of Wimauma. The historic neglect of Wimauma, combined with current development pressures, place the people who live and work in Wimauma on the verge of gentrification that will cause displacement and continue to have an adverse impact on the overall sustainability of the community, particularly as it relates to the fine balance that needs to be considered when rural areas may increase densities that it cannot currently sustain. In this time, that I've been on board, I've had the opportunity to work alongside with your staff as well as with the Wimauma community in shaping this plan. I have approached this matter in a collaborative spirit. As such, the plan that you are considering articulates the identified community benefits that residents have prioritized. But in terms of truly having an impact on the future of Wimauma and the fine balancing act of preservation, revitalization, and accommodation for new development, it is imperative that an independent body be created to ensure the goals and the plans of the plan come to fruition and not sit on a shelf. So to this end, Enterprising Latinas recommends the formation of the Wimauma Community Plan Activation Task Force. The task force should be comprised of Hillsborough County agency directors responsible for planning public investments, residents, business leaders, and Wimauma-based community organizations who agree to work together to pursue the plan's priorities and goals. The WCPAT will serve as a platform to advise and ensure accountability from the county and the development community on matters related to future land development, budgeting, and capital improvement planning. The implementation.
Mr. Martinez, you're beyond your 3 minutes. Could you go ahead and wrap up, please?
Certainly. This recommendation is based on a vision to promote and protect the cultural spatial attributes which make Wimauma unique. And as it relates to the WVR2, we support and insist on maintaining the rural attributes that position Wimauma in the unique stance of balancing development demands. It would be the role of the WCPT to ensure that any increase in density are congruent and truly live to maintaining the rural character of the WVR2. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Christina Bosworth, and I'd like to remind everyone again, 3 minutes per person. Christina Bosworth, if you're still on the line.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to share my comments. My name is Christina Bosworth, and I am a resident of Wimauma on the Board of Directors of the Wimauma Community Development Corporation and an active member of the Wimauma Now campaign, a group that was instrumental in getting community involvement in revising this plan. I have been involved in the workshops since the first round were held in early 2020, and as a result, I believe I have an excellent understanding of the plan. I conditionally support the revised village plan and the associated land use rule because I want to ensure that the plan and rules truly benefit the Wimauma community in terms of infrastructure, mobility, job opportunities, and more. I have lived in Wimauma for almost 10 years and I have not seen any of the 2007 neighborhood plan elements enacted. Because of that history, we need a method to ensure that the revised village plan will be implemented. To that end, I also recommend the establishment of a Wimauma Community Task Force. This task force would function in an advisory capacity to ensure plan activation, implementation, and equitable community redevelopment in the process. The task force should be composed of Hillsborough County agency directors responsible for planning public investments, residents, business leaders, and Wimauma-based community organizations who agree to work together to pursue the plans, priorities, and goals. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, next up on the list, we have Gregorio Burgos.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Hey,
please
Sid.
go ahead.
Yes, once again, just thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a former Wimauma baby. I was born and raised. My name is Gregorio Burgos, a former resident who's come back to manage a business run by my sister. Both of us run the Christina Event Center at the entrance of Wimauma. And basically, you know, we have roots here in the community, still have a lot of family, a lot of friends. And we visit 2-3 times a week just to the family and friends. And so, I mean, more than anything, I want to thank the county for giving us the opportunity to have our voices heard. I want to thank the CDC and the Enterprising Latinas as well for making it available for the community to have that voice in both languages. We know that Wimauma is very culturally diverse. I myself am from Puerto Rican and Mexican backgrounds. My family was the first tortilla business in not only Wimauma, in the state of Florida. And I just want to make sure that this plan does take effect, that the voices of our community do get heard, and that it has it comes true. In helping with this plan, I remember driving by the school, Beth Shields, which is a new school. I went to Wimauma Elementary. That there's no sidewalks there. You go to other neighborhoods in Hillsborough County, they got parks everywhere, and I feel like Wimauma's been left behind. And I hope that this commission listens and takes the community's diversity, language, culture into their decision making. I really appreciate your time, and thank you. God bless.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Carmen Galazar.
Ms. Galazar is not available today.
All righty. We will move right on to Tanya Jackson.
Just when I moved. Good evening, everyone. And again, I also want to thank Hillsborough County, the CDC, Wimauma Now, Enterprising Latinas as well. I just want to just say for a moment, everyone has spoke the same thing and they have the same feelings that I do, especially when it comes to inclusion and making sure that we're going to be heard. I heard the last gentleman that spoke as far as his legacy with his family. My family, too, was one of the first families to have a business. It was my two great aunts had a little storefront in the center of Wimauma, right on the main strip, so that it was convenient for folks to not have to walk, or when they didn't have cars available then, to walk all the way up to the main store. That, for me as a young girl, built character on the dream that I could have something other than just a working mentality, but to work for mentality, work for my own and work for my community to build it and work for my family. So this is one of the concerns that I have. Without something, as they say, some type of task force in place, that it's just going to, the voices that I have and the voices of the community won't be heard. So again, I thank everyone for their time. And I truly would like to see, equal representation and a task force there to make sure that we don't get dropped by the wayside for my family's legacy as well.
Thank you for the comments. All right, next up we have, I lost my place. Hang on a second. Holly Jameson. Is Holly Jameson still on the line?
Yes, I already spoke.
Okay. Thank you. All right, then we will move on to Bill O'Brien.
Good afternoon again. Bill O'Brien, Balm Community Civic Association. I only want to say that I believe it's admirable when I listen to the residents of Wimauma, their involvement in the process and their desire to see to it that the process that's been defined and if approved gets implemented. So my point or my comment would only be that it's imperative that if it's approved, that a task force of some sort get put in place that helps monitor progress of the plan and the insurance that the plan gets implemented for the benefit of the community, because Wimauma as well as Balm are left behind when it comes to the processes within Hillsborough County. So with that, I'll defer my comments on the next matter. I won't need to speak again. Thanks again for the effort.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Wanda Broughton.
Wanda does not seem to be on the line.
All right, moving right along to Jacob Kramer.
Good evening, Chairman. This is Jake Kramer with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street in Tampa. I'm representing Eisenhower Property Group, which controls more acreage in WVR2 than any other landowner. My comments are going to apply to all three Wimauma items coming up. We've been actively involved in both the Wimauma Now group and organization, as well as involved in most of the Planning Commission's meetings over the past couple of years on WVR2. And, I'd like to say that, staff and Ms. Sabia's team have worked really hard. The plan isn't perfect. I think, everyone probably on this call has something that they think could be added to it to make it a little bit more perfect. But I would just encourage the group not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. Staff has done a really good job of leading us to a place where I think everyone can live with what's in this plan. It's certainly better than what we have today. I think we all know that the jobs requirement is not working, and that's really just because it's impossible to regulate jobs into existence. The way you get jobs is you provide housing to the people who live in an area, and then you provide the infrastructure to set the table for business growth. So, with that, I would just like to encourage you all to move this forward. It's been a long, roughly 2 years of moratorium, and the landowners really, they have rights, and they'd like to move forward with development and contributing to the community. So, again, with that, job well done to staff on this, and we ask you to approve the plan tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. All right, next up we have Michael Peterson.
Good evening again, Mike Peterson. First, I need to reference a letter that I tried to submit earlier today. I was told all of you would get it in advance. That letter should also be part of my testimony in the prior RP2 items, as well as these Wimauma and WVR2 components. In particular, I first want to compliment that I believe this Wimauma plan is a bit more comprehensive than the RP2 effort. And so congratulations to staff and the consultants for bringing this in for a landing, because it wasn't just a WVR2 component, it had a lot more to it, and they did a pretty good job. However, I do have one specific complaint, as you will note if you got my letter. The downtown east portion of the total downtown overlay area was previously called the light industrial / commercial area for some of the larger, more intense uses that you didn't want in your downtown core along the main street or whatever, and particularly since it's the strip of land that's out there right along State Road 674, just to the east of the downtown core. My concern with that is if you look at the future land use element under WVR2, typical uses and floor area ratios, you'll find that this downtown east component with its more intense, larger uses is limited to the same 0.25 FAR as any mere residential support use is. And these residential support uses can occur anywhere in the WVR2. And here we're talking about an area designated to be an employment center on the major highway. And this has been established since the initial inception in 2007. It's just changed names in this iteration. So you've heard from plenty of people and saw in the goals that everyone's very concerned about bringing economic prosperity and new jobs to Wimauma. So if this is the only area you've designated for the kind of jobs that aren't the retail service jobs that'll be in the smaller downtown core shops, why would we try to limit its capabilities and thwart it delivering on those jobs? And the answer I was given was, well, because it's outside the urban service boundary. Well, that's a bit of a catch-22 that I think we ought to correct, instead of having that thwart a stated goal of everybody on how to make this plan work for the community. So I think we need to move this FAR up to a 0.35 or a 0.5, because the Land Development Code also asks that this downtown east accommodate parking garages. So I think we have an issue there. I'll finish these comments in the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll be sure to get back to you. All right. Next up, we have Zelvis Applin.
Thank you, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. I'm excited to be on this call today. This is my first meeting here in Hillsborough County. I am a resident of Wimauma, and I am also a local community leader and pastor of a church in Wimauma, and very excited about the plan that is ahead of you guys and will be considered and voted upon. I am calling in support of the adoption of the Wimauma neighborhood plan with the community benefits, and I want to emphasize that. I grew up in the state of Texas in a community kind of similar to Wimauma in its early inception, and watch how that community, through careful and strategic planning, has blossomed into one of the most desired communities to live in Fort Worth, Texas, and very excited every time I go back home to see the economic opportunities out there, the businesses that have developed, the homes and the types of neighborhoods that mirror the kind of culture and the topography that we have here in Wimauma, and celebrates all the diversity and seeing the varying level of housing opportunities that afford people from various socioeconomic diverse backgrounds an opportunity to live, work, and play in that community. And so I believe that with this Wimauma neighborhood plan, that is a right step in the right direction to make sure and ensure that we are progressing and moving forward. As when I moved out here, I, too, myself felt like Wimauma was forgotten about and left behind, as well as Baum, while New Tampa and Wesley Chapel and even downtown Channelside district area and some of South Tampa, we constantly see these improvements happening. And so we are excited that finally we are getting our opportunity to be developed into something that makes sense for who we are out here. And so I would like to also support the recommendations by the Wimauma CDC and the Enterprising Latinas and also Wimauma Now to establish a Wimauma Community Action Plan Task Force in an advisory capacity that will ensure plan activation, implementation, and equitable community redevelopment. And I look forward to being a part of that process. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. All right, next up on the list, we have Liz Gutierrez.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. Let me thank everyone involved in this planning process. It's been a long road. I think everyone, all the residents, everyone that has come out on a Saturday morning or a Thursday night and really genuinely participated, wanting to create a better place to live, not just for themselves, but for everyone else. So I thank the staff. I thank everyone that's been participating. And I understand that this has been a difficult road and we don't have an entirely perfect plan because obviously there are very divergent needs and interests and it's hard to balance it all. But with all of that, we're very excited. And, you know, we as an organization were the ones that said that an update to the neighborhood plan was important. It was important for the future of this community, and we wanted to have a role, we wanted to have a voice in making sure that the community really did develop in a way that it was respectful and equitable with everyone that is here. So to that end, I want to say thank you to all, and we support obviously the implementation of this plan. And as they say, if it's not in writing, it's not going to happen. And so it's really, really important, as all of our other speakers have said, that the recommendation about creating this task force be put in writing in the plan, whether it is in the strategic plan part of the overall plan, which, you know, whatever place it makes sense, but to have it written in, because we don't want to have it be forgotten, and we don't want a transfer of administration or anything like that to occur that might suggest that, you know, those commitments were not made. We want to see this recommendation. We want to see it in writing because we are not going away. We're going to be sure that this plan, this particular one, gets implemented in a way that really lives up to the spirit and the values that we have all been working towards. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. And last but not least on the list, we have, on my list, I'll check the other list in a second, Santos Morales.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Santos Morales, and I also work at Enterprising Latinas in Wimauma, and I'm soon to become a South Shore County resident. I'm excited for that. And before I begin, I would like to thank the project's consultant, Taryn, Sabia, and the Planning Commission staff, especially Jay Collins, for his leadership and support. My comments obviously apply to the next items as well, so I won't be speaking again. But I will tell you that over the last 2.5 years, Enterprising Latinas has been convening with the community to address the redevelopment of the areas downtown. We formed a stakeholder group known as Wimauma Now, comprised of residents, businesses, landowners, and people that work in Wimauma. The group also included lawyers representing private developers, some who have spoken here already. Since the beginning of this journey, both Enterprising Latinas and our partner organization, the Wimauma Community Development Corporation, we were aware that addressing the lack of investment in the area from previous county administrations and simply the gross neglect and lack of oversight to enforce the goals of the 2007 adopted neighborhood plan, which included a jobs requirement, would raise some eyebrows. We set out to address the poor conditions of our downtown with no sidewalks, no public sewers, no public water, extremely poor or non-existent lighting in some areas. In essence, we set out to address the affliction of what would have been a thriving downtown. The people of Wimauma pay taxes just like any other community in the county, yet most of these dollars are quote unquote prioritized by the county and little is reinvested back in the local community. Consequently, over the course of the last 2.5 years, we have had numerous documented conversations with the community, the Planning Commission, our county commissioners, requesting and demanding that investment is made locally and that our downtown becomes a thriving place for all of Wimauma residents and those that visit. Some will argue that adding more housing and planned development with hundreds, if not thousands, of new market rate housing is the answer to a thriving downtown. However, the people that have chosen to live in rural Wimauma and enjoy the natural landscape of the area are forced to choose between more rooftops, more traffic and congestion, and more walled bedrooms communities. I know that in conversations with new residents moving to the area due to the encroaching subdivisions, I've learned that they're not even interested in visiting Wimauma's downtown because the downtown has nothing to offer short of a dozen taquerias. Therefore, no matter how many houses are built, if no effort in infrastructure development is made a priority by this commission and the county, Wimauma will be just another bedroom community for the Tampa Bay area. Right now, there are no cafes, no shopping, no retail businesses. In fact, a recent study indicated that more than $16 million leave Wimauma because local folks cannot find your everyday shopping experience as you would in other neighborhoods. And this is a real concern for locals, for businesses, and organizations like Enterprising Latinas that are looking to improve the lives of women and families to self-sufficiency through workforce and self-employment. We need an executable plan, not just a wish list that will remain idle for another decade. So if this board is going to approve the proposed plan, then I would urge that the board considers the endorsement and appointment of a community plan activation task force to work with the county and the Planning Commission to help oversee local equitable development and to bring some level of accountability to public and private development in Wimauma. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, that was the last individual I had on my list. So there too. All right. So with that, I will.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I called in to speak.
Who is this?
Bryce Bowden.
Bryce, we had you on a later item.
Pastor Bowden, I see you down at 210289, which is the zoning portion of this.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to planning commissioners' comments on this item, we're looking at HCCPA 20-11, the livable communities element, Wimauma community plan update. Yes, Commissioner Handy.
Thank you. And I would like to also thank Taryn and Jay for their terrific work on this. I think the Wimauma Village plan is great. I've also noticed some of the revisions and updates that they have implemented since the Wimauma workshop was conducted a few weeks ago. And I think that's great. They've really been on top of that. But I have a lot of pause about the loss of the job requirement. I think that as the last caller said, we're in the danger of creating yet another bedroom community, and that Wimauma will not achieve all of the other goals that the village plan is aspiring to if we completely eliminate the jobs requirement. As a resident of Wimauma, I was very involved in the 2007 plan, and the reason that there was a willingness to allow the 10-fold increase in density was because we were trying to keep people in Wimauma and not create a bedroom community and not just have urban sprawl and more congestion. I'd like to talk about the yes or no, like the slide that said the job requirements just means yes or no to development. Well, that's really not true, because we have 2 developments that were approved with no jobs created. So in other words, the interpretation of the Wimauma plan was in question. Of course, it resulted in the moratorium, and we know the rest from there. But there's been lots of comments about it not being perfect and like, let's find something we can live with. I don't agree with that. I think we need to be sure we get it right. And again, the jobs requirement going away entirely is not something that I think we should be willing to live with. The WTL study that was commissioned by the county, their findings were that we do need to keep the jobs requirement. And they also found that the 2 developments that have been approved in the WVR2 to date, we are way behind in catching up with the rooftops that those will already create. The infrastructure catching up, the water use, the water supply requirements. A community just to the north of Wimauma, Summerfield and Big Bend Road come to mind. Loads and loads of rooftops, and it's the most problematic, Big Bend Road, the most problematic road in the county with congestion and traffic. And all those rooftops haven't really done anything about creating anything but more commuters. No jobs, no local businesses, it's chain stores and lining up to get onto I-75. I'm very concerned about selling out for community benefits. I think the list is way too long. There have been concerns expressed about there being too many to choose from. They need to be reduced, in my mind, to the ones that meet the list of the 9 goals that the community specifically outlined. They're not necessarily community-wide. They will benefit the developer by adding density, and they'll make the developments look nice, but it's not going to necessarily help with sidewalks and congestion and pedestrian safety in Wimauma. I think that the task force being requested will go a long way toward helping with that. But again, I think that the developers will choose what is easiest and cheapest, and let's check those boxes, and let's have a public meeting and go along our merry way. I hate to say failure, as the lack of success perhaps with the original community plan showed, it called for connectivity and better sidewalks and a grid pattern. And then we ended up like with communities such as the Serrano, which is private, gated. I can't even walk down my sidewalk and through that nice neighborhood because it's not connected and there is no public access. So I bring that up because I'm concerned about the whole idea of living with, and I understand the need for compromise, but let's make sure that what we're living with will result in what the community really needs and really has expressed the desire for here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Handy. Good comments, good comments. Commissioner Linkus, please.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Taryn. I also appreciated all the public comments. And I just want to also say I appreciate Commissioner Handy's critical perspectives, and I think they're really well taken. Because I do think this, as we've heard over and over, this is a compromise plan. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of ways that this can really fall short. And so I do want to also say I'm floored by the community organizing that I'm hearing, the enthusiasm, the social capital that this area has, and the recommendation to create a task force. I think this is a group that could do wonders for that, could just be a model for the whole region on how to do that well. This is just such an amazing group of people that we've heard from tonight living in this community. So my follow-up then is to ask how we as the Planning Commission can support that, if there's some process for writing a letter or a way to move forward with that, because I think that they are very perceptive, and I'm really impressed with this group. I think they're absolutely right in realizing that doing this right, figuring out the hard next steps, getting the public-private partnerships and the infrastructure here is the challenge moving ahead.
Yeah, we could make a request, force Ms. Zornita to write a letter if we wanted to put a motion to putting a letter together and take a vote on that if we wanted to. So that would be obviously at the discretion of the commissioners It's not something I would do myself, but yeah, it would just be a motion to write a letter and some details, so.
Is that a motion that we would make today, or?
If you'd like, yes, you could.
Yeah, I would just make it separate from your consistency finding.
Right.
And, yeah, because we heard this from the community and just felt like it wasn't right to put in the comp plan.
Mhm.
But I think you all writing a letter of support of that comment would be fantastic.
Okay, and Chair, if you would suggest when that might be appropriate, I would like to make such a motion. Thank you.
Okay. Could we bring that up in business as opposed to tying it to this? Like new business maybe, Mr.? Or would,
I think it could, just after you take the motion on consistency on, or inconsistency on this amendment.
just bring it right up?
Yeah,
All right.
that would be fine.
Sounds good. All right. Are there any more discussion from the Commissioner Bernstein, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do want to join Commissioner Linkus in extending thanks, certainly to staff, done a impressive job throughout, but really want to extend thanks to the members of the public who had the courage to speak out today. And I have to say that the passion in the remarks that we heard today, and I'm confident probably will continue to hear this evening, speaks volumes about their level of engagement, and more importantly, perhaps, their commitment to the surrounding community of Wimauma. And I have to say that it didn't go unnoticed here, and I would agree with Commissioner Linkus that if that's indicative of the kind of passion we have in that community, then the sky's the limit, I suspect, in terms of where this can go. My only other comments, I think, with all due respect to my fellow Commissioner Handy, and in fairness, I don't reside in Wimauma, but I have to say that the concept and approach of a community benefit analysis versus the straight-up jobs requirement appealed to me personally. I know Commissioner Powell echoed that sentiment earlier today, probably said it more eloquently than I just did, but I have to say that I appreciate the flexibility of that approach. I worry a little bit that if we confine ourselves to a rigid model as we approach the growth in this community, we do confront the possibility of lack of progress. And I just want to make sure that the good citizens there do at least get the progress they deserve. And so the comment that I heard earlier, not allowing the concept of perfection to be the enemy of the good, resonated with me personally, because this has been a topic that's come up before our commission multiple occasions just in 2 years I've been on the commission. And I think all of us, while we may not see this issue the same way, want what's best for these citizens and want to really reinforce the passion that they bring to this every time we get together.
Well said, Commissioner Bernstein. Good comments. Commissioner Powell, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to, again, just thank staff and for everyone that was involved in all the material that we've heard and seen. I just would like to echo something that Commissioner Bernstein sort of said, but in a different way. I hear sort of the outrage from the residents in this area. I have recently, someone asked in the public comment if anyone has driven through, Wimauma recently, and I actually did that this week, this weekend. And I was actually on Big Bend Road, Commissioner Handy, at 5 o'clock. And that was lovely to sit in again. Hadn't done that to myself in a while, and I thought that was a good reminder before the meeting. And I ended up actually having to go all the way into almost Manatee and make the loop because I just didn't want to sit in the traffic. So, from that perspective there, I do think that, traffic and everything that goes with that, we really have to be mindful of that, going forward. But I don't know how we can implement, jobs or force, jobs to be created if we don't have rooftops. And I know that the community is not or does not seem as concerned with having more rooftops, and so it's just sort of in a catch-22. But I think this is a really good point to show that this is the first community plan that's been updated, I think, ever, or more recently, in 20-something years maybe, or, and so I think that this is, something that we should be mindful of, and I think not just as a planning commission, but, as the county and the BOCC, that we need to review these community plans, more than once every, 10, 20, years, because things do change, and, I think that if we would have been updating, the community plans along the way, we may not necessarily be in the situation that we are in, especially with, our South County residents. So I just wanted to interject that as some thought.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Are there any more comment? Commissioner Linkus? Yes.
And if I could just follow up on Commissioner Powell's statements, I do think that with this being sort of a new moment in terms of community planning for the Planning Commission, the idea of a task force to support that, to make this a really powerful process and to be a game changer for the way the Planning Commission addresses these kinds of efforts. I really think there's a potential here to do something that's really game changing and gives new meaning to what planning from the Planning Commission does. So again, just commend this effort, and we'll be looking for support for that task force.
Thank you, Commissioner Linkus. Yes, Commissioner Handy.
I agree with everything that's being said here. My concern is that it's a pretty hefty price tag to have tenfold density. And I'll just, a little bit of history, it was not the residents who decided to replace the job requirement with community benefits. It was the staff. And the community benefits, there are several that I have issues with that I don't think will end up benefiting the residents the way they should, perhaps the way it was originally intended. I've spoken about some of that before, the LEED buildings and the different housing forms, for example. I don't know how that's going to help people navigate a crosswalk in the middle of Wimauma. But I think it's a hefty price tag, and if we do a better job in the task force, I think we'll go a long way toward that. But narrowing it down to some more realistic community benefits. But I'm not familiar with any place in the comp plan saying that it is our job to come up with ways to allow the development to move forward. And since the jobs requirement isn't working, let's come up with something else. That's why it's in the rural service area. It's not really our job to make sure that we can find out how to achieve the WVR2 densities. And I'm not saying that it has to rely solely on jobs. That was probably a fault of the original plan, where there wasn't enough variation there. But as, again, citing the WTL study, there is some form of that job requirements that really still needs to be maintained, or there's no guarantee that we're not going to have Big Bend Road. And I know that the good people of Wimauma do not want that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Handy. Was there any more comments? Let me check on the WebEx. No, Commissioner Cresses. Just tuning in, seeing no more lights on in the room and no hands raised on the WebEx for this item. I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to the commissioners for motions on 2012 Livable Communities Element Wimauma Community Plan Update. Commissioner Dowdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that the Commission find the proposed Livable Communities Element text change for Hillsborough County Plan Amendment HCCPA 20-12 consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and forward the recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
Motion by Commissioner Dowdy.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Powell. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners on this item? All right, seeing none, I will ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress? Kress? Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0. Commissioner Handy voted no.
Thank you.
I believe that should be 8-1, just to correct it
yeah.
for the record.
Oh, excuse me. Motion carried 8-1. Commissioner Handy voted no.
Thank you. All right. On to public comment, opening up for our next item, HCCPA 2013. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the motion. Commissioner Linkus, please.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission prepare a letter of support for the task force for implementation of the Wimauma plan.
Second.
Who's that? All right. We have a motion for our executive director to draft a letter of support for the Wimauma task force that has been mentioned by a large majority of the citizens who have been on the calls tonight. And a second to that motion by Commissioner Powell. Is there any more discussion by the commissioners? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Did we lose the clerk?
Joseph, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can't hear the clerk.
I can't either.
Dun, dun, dun.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
There we go.
I don't know what that was. I'll start again. Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Handy?
Yes.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 10-0.
Thank you. Well motioned, by the way, Commissioner Linkus. Well motioned. All right, on to our next item, HCCPA 2013 Future Land Use Element, and this is the Wimauma Village Residential Land Use Study. And, oh, it's a future land use element update. All right, so public comment for this item we have signed up. And I'm going to go through and call everyone's name again. So again, most of you are signed up previously. If you have nothing to say this time, just feel free to say no, and we'll go past you. Those of you who do have something to say, I ask again, please keep it to 3 minutes. And with that, for HCCPA 20-13, we will start with Pamela Gomez.
I would like my comments from the previous section to go here as well, but first like to thank you for considering our recommendation for the task force and providing a letter of support. Our promise is to continue being engaged and making sure that the residents of Wimauma, who are the ultimate beneficiary, continue to engage and share their voices, and as community groups, we will continue to make sure that folks are at the table. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Gil Martinez.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. I too would like to extend my gratitude to the Planning Commission for acknowledging our proposed task force, and really look forward to working with you and moving forward and making sure that the plan is implemented in a manner that is consistent with the vision of the community, the desires of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Christina Bosworth.
Thank you, Commissioner Joseph. My previous comments on 20-12 also apply to 2013, so for the sake of time, I will not repeat them. And I also want to thank the commissioners for their support of our recommendations for a task force. We will not disappoint. We will work hard with it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Gregorio Burgos. If he's still with us.
Gregorio, can you hear us?
I think Greg is off. He's also doing community bingo in Wimauma, so he might have fallen off, but we'll pass it on to him.
All right. We will move on then to our next person, Carmen Galazar.
Ms. Galazar is not available tonight.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I forgot there were a couple. Next up, Tanya Jackson.
All right, and thanks again, everyone. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to at least have my voice heard. It definitely makes me feel that, that going forward, I have a seat at the table, that I'll be able to get information through that task force that will represent everyone that's in Wimauma that truly, truly has a legacy and a background. So thanks so much, and everyone have a great and blessed rest of their evening.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have Bill O'Brien. If he's still on the line.
Bill looks to have logged off.
Yeah, I don't see him anymore. All right. We will move on to Wanda Broughton. Wasn't here the first time, but I'm going to put it out there in case she joined us. Wanda Broughton?
I don't believe she's on the line either as well.
Okay. Next up, we have, and I'm going to call on you, Mr. Kramer, even though you deferred, just to make sure you don't want to speak. Jacob Kramer, if he's still on the line.
It does not look like Jay Kramer's on the line either.
All righty. Then Michael Peterson. Mr. Peterson.
Hello, Commissioners. Let me again pick up where I left off. That is how the downtown east area, formerly the light industrial commercial designation area, has a land development code requirement, section 3.23.11, paren 2, again, pushing for parking garages in this downtown east area. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I'm familiar with any places where we push for parking garages for only a 0.25 FAR. The current proposal is letting the urban service boundary rural area construct sort of overrule common sense in delivering what could be great job opportunities that everyone claims to want. I understand why staff's fearful of getting skewered, perhaps by some of the Board of County Commissioner members or even someone amongst your group, perhaps, who likes using the urban service boundary rural area construct as a cudgel against any development, but it's really not appropriate what this plan is trying to achieve. None of these uses would occur before public water and sewer would be available. A fire station is already there across the street. No schools are required because these are all non-residential uses. So, are we talking about what comes first, the chicken or the egg? This category was designed to ultimately convert. Within the WVR2 category, you have this special call out for uses that can only happen in this location in the entire Wimauma area. And they won't be effective. We're neutering the capability for the called out uses by having such an artificially low 0.25 FAR, simply claiming, well, it's on the wrong side of the line. So I hope someone will offer a motion to raise that FAR to 0.5 would be preferable, at least 0.35, to help fulfill the stated desire, not only of the plan as originally created, but as everyone has repeated both tonight and through this entire process, how they're trying to strive to get jobs. We don't need the artificial construct of the other item. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to end it there. I do have another item that came up that I think I need to speak on under the Land Development Code, which I probably didn't sign up for. So if you'd please let me speak in the next section, I'll cover one more item. Thank you.
All righty. Next on our list, we have Santos Morales. If Santos is still on the line.
Santos, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I would like my previous comments to apply to this section. And I also want to thank you for the recommendation to create the task force. I think that's extremely important. It's a good decision on behalf of this board. And once again, I'd like to thank the project's consultant, Taryn Sabia from USF, and the Planning Commission staff and Schneider for really coming through and hanging out with us in Wimauma for over 2.5 years. And just to let you know, the work has just begun. This is, really a truly remarkable moment for us. And we are looking forward to a continued partnership with this board, with the County Commission, and with the Planning Commission staff. So thanks again.
Thank you, sir. All right, that is the last individual that I had signed up for public comment on HCCPA 20-13. Let me just check with Ms. Zornita here. No, okay. All right, so with that, I will go on ahead and turn it over to the commissioners for any questions or comments that they may have on this item. Not seeing any lights going on in the room or any hands online. I will go ahead and close public comment on this item and then open it up to motions for the from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Bernstein, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we vote in favor of finding HCCPA 20-13, future land use element, consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and that we pass along to the County Commission for approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for consistency finding by Commissioner Bernstein, a second to that motion by Commissioner Powell. Is there any more discussion on the item from the commissioners? Not seeing any in the room or any hands online, I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Handy?
No.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-1. Commissioner Handy voted no.
Thank you. All right. Our next item up for public comment is the final one, Hillsborough County Land Development Code Amendment 210289 WVR2. And again, we have some repeats on the list. So if anybody is not interested in talking, please feel free to just tell us so and we'll move past you. And for those who are talking, I will remind you to keep it to 3 minutes per person. All right. And the first person we have signed up is Gil Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to express my gratitude once again and the previous comments from the first item to move forward through the second and third item.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Gregorio Burgos again. Or he left the line, didn't he? So just double check. Gregorio Burgos?
It looks like Gregorio is still on the line, but he didn't speak last time.
All right.
Gregorio, can you hear us?
Nope. Okay. We'll move on. We'll move on. The next one we have is Carmen Galazar.
Carmen did not join the meeting today.
Oh, yeah. I keep doing that with that one. All right. Next up, Bill O'Brien. And I think Mr. O'Brien's gone also.
Mr. O'Brien has left the meeting.
Yep. All right. And Wanda Broughton, who was a no-show last time, just going to call it out there one more time to triple check. Wanda Broughton? Nope. All right. Going on to Bryce Bowden. Is there Bryce Bowden on the line? Not sounding like it. All right. Moving on to Jacob Kramer, who is also not on the line and deferred. And last but not least, well, second to last but not least, Santos Morales. Is Mr. Morales on the line?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Planning Commission Board. Once again, I'd like my statement from my first comment to be included in this part. And once again, I want to thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir. And last but not least, Mr. Peterson, Michael Peterson, I will allow you 3 final minutes, say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since no one would be interested in increasing the FAR in downtown East, now that we're in the Land Development Code section, I'd ask that someone suggest removal of the encouragements or pushing for parking garages in the downtown East area, as such just isn't feasible given that sort of FAR. Let me also add that I think everyone needs to understand that WVR2 did not create the 2 units per acre. So there was no trade-off discussion in the original Wimauma Village plan, much less this one. It wasn't created then. It was created back in 1989 or so when this was originally RP2 properties, before we then changed it to WVR2 because we wanted to change the character as a more downtown focused. So don't miss the history of what's really been going on here, and the fact that while everyone has an interpretation that got to some sort of jobs requirement all of a sudden, the facts are no one else has come forward proving or showing how that came out of the original discussions or whatever. And as you're well aware, there's litigation about all that, and we won't belabor it, but let's not get lost on some big trade that we're all cheating on because we're doing 2 units per acre. That's been in place since 1989. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. All right, and that is the last of my list and the last of the public comment for HC 210289. So with that, I will turn it over to the commissioners for their questions, discussions, and comments on this item. Did you have Commissioner Dowdy?
Actually, I'd be a question for Melissa, if you could speak to and address, if you can, Mr. Peterson's concern about parking garages with an FAR of 0.25.
Sure, I looked at that section of the code, and it does, parking garages are not required. It simply has standards for how they would be designed. If somebody was to choose to do a parking garage, they are encouraged in the downtown center, the government district, and the light industrial and commercial district, but it is not required.
Okay, well, and maybe, is there a staff member that can talk? I mean, Mike's making the suggestion that you couldn't do it effectively, build a parking garage that would function appropriately with that FAR, and I'm not sure that, maybe it may be a design question. So I'm not sure if there's anybody on staff that can.
So if I have 40 acres, and this is Jay Collins with the Planning Commission.
Okay.
If I have 40 acres of WVR2 property and I have a 0.25 FAR and I'm located in downtown East, I could ask for a 400,000+ square foot building. That may need a parking garage. It is still a 0.25 FAR off of a 40-acre parcel, but it is also a 400,000 square foot building that might need a parking garage. The idea of it inside of the urban service boundary is more so for the compact nature of those lots that we have in the blocks. And if you do end up getting 2 and 3 and 4-story buildings through there, there may be the issue to wrap a parking deck of 2 stories, such as what you see along, say, Florida Avenue or something. But we're also talking about something that, lest we forget, we don't do anything transactional. We told this to the folks out there. We told it to the folks in Baum. Everything that you do out there is for this generation to the next generation. So you're right. We may never see the need for a parking deck in the lifespan of this plan. But the next plan that comes through may say, yes, there needs to be parking decks because of redevelopment opportunities that have occurred in downtown Wimauma. I just don't want us to lose sight of the fact that sometimes things are not always as they appear right out of the gate when you look at them for what might happen tomorrow. We're always looking at things years down the line. And with that, Ms. Sabia, anything to add?
Jay, I think that you answered it well. You know, the plan was designed to think about future development and the future in general as it moves forward. So we're trying to account for as much as we can, looking into that future, being able to apply those community goals to it, looking at the scale and size of development that fits in terms of that adjacent downtown to the downtown east. And also looking at how development might work along the future of that very prominent easement line that you see, that is the Tico easement and the former railroad line, which has been identified as the Wimauma recreational trail to be adjacent to. So there's a lot of moving components in terms of future development and how it would be addressed there. And depending on the acreage, it could be a very large building, right? It could be that of Walmart or something larger, just in terms of giving everyone an idea of that scale or size.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dowdy. Good comments from staff. Good questions. Are there any more questions or discussion from the commissioners? Commissioner Handy, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that I think that the Wimauma downtown is a terrific concept, and staff has done a great job. Again, I'm just really concerned that the WVR2 is going to result in too much too soon, and not what the area needs, and not what the intent is, which is why I really gives me pause. Regardless of what happened in 1989, this is 2021. And we have to look at the repercussions that we have seen elsewhere that accompany urban sprawl, and the resulting decrease in quality of life, and particularly in these rural communities where they have specifically requested that they prefer to stay rural. And my fear is that, again, that there will be too much too soon, and we will not be able to accommodate such development outside the urban service area. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Handy. Are there any more comments or discussion on the item from the commissioners? Not seeing any hands on the WebEx or any more lights in the room. I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to the commissioners for motions. Commissioner Bernstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we find Hillsborough County LDC Amendment 21-0289 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and that we pass it along to the County Commission for their approval.
All right.
Second.
I have a consistency finding motion from Commissioner Bernstein, a second to that motion from Commissioner Powell. Is there any more discussion on this item from the commissioners? Comments, questions? Nope. Then with that, I will ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Dowdy?
Yes.
Handy?
No.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-1. Commissioner Handy voted no.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for the presentations. Thank you, Taryn, for all the hard work. Jay, all the staff, even the ones who aren't here on leave, please give them our thanks. It has been a production. Commissioner Dix, we got it done, sir, remember? And with that, I will go on ahead and adjourn this meeting and thank everybody for their time. Have a great evening.
Thank you.